morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night to the final day of Virtual Summit in Education, and we start with robotics. And here to start us off is Don Jones, graduate of Jamaica College. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Business from the University of the West Indies, as well as Management Information Systems from Pace University in New York. He also holds very dear and close to his heart the advancement of robotics among Jamaica's high school students. In 2009, he founded Teamworks, Jamaica Workforce Development, which is a project that was endorsed by the Ministry of Education. And this led to the introduction of the first Tech Challenge Robotics in 2009 at Jamaica College. Its success sparked national attention as a team from Jamaica College students began competing as the only international school participating in the first Tech Challenge, also known as FTC High School Competition in New York City. For over 10 years, the JC team has enjoyed success after success, and engaging the Alumni Association members in the Union of Jamaican Alumni Associations, UJA, schools slowly began to introduce FIRST robotics. Don's dream for Jamaica to have its own first tech franchise came to pass when the FTC's Jamaica franchise was established in 2018. FTC is a part of FIRST, the world leader in robotics education. FIRST is an acronym for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. Under FTC Jamaica, the island hosted its inaugural National Robotics Chapter last year. FTC Jamaica has sparked a popular robotics education movement now involving over some 40 secondary schools across the island. Ladies and gentlemen, Don Jones.
Well, thank you, Leslie Ann. Are you hearing me?
Yes. Perfect.
Well, I'm really happy to be here and happy to shine the light of some intelligence on robotics. It's a distinguished event. I'm really happy to have this opportunity, and thank you so much. Well, robotics is, yes, near and dear to me. And the whole journey in robotics for me, and for, I guess, many folks, began in 2009 with being unhappy. I was unhappy about the state of Jamaican education, and that was because it was kind of the same thing, same structure, the same modes of learning I experienced in school decades earlier. And in the meantime, the world had moved on from that. And the world had moved on to a better model. Better models were available than were available in Jamaica in 2009. So I determined that something had to be done about that, and it had to be a little bit dramatic. So I happened on robotics, happened to think of robotics as a solution, a possible solution, or one possible solution to the problem of stagnation in Jamaican education and something in need of a disruption. So that was the intent of robotics, would be to disrupt what was the current system. And are we on the first slide?
Okay, we're getting there.
Okay. So that's the genesis of it. So I developed this project called Teamworks. It's an acronym, technology, entrepreneurship, application science, and media. So these are the areas I wish to focus on in secondary schools, and in starting with secondary schools, but in all schools, from primary or even pre-primary up to university. The next slide, please. So the target on the Teamworks is upskilling 30,000 people, young people, by 2030, 30 by 30 for short. And this is aligned, obviously, with the Jamaica government's Vision 2030 plan, which is their development model. And the model is based on projects that can scale countrywide. So we want to introduce programs to teach kids modern skills, but be able to do it on a wide scale. And in doing so, we have to collaborate with many sectors of the society. It's an all hands on deck affair in my view. And one of the key metrics is to demystify what technology means to kids, that it's not something for other people, for Chinese, Asians, or Indians, or white people. It's something for us. It's something that we can do once we break it down. And once we are able to introduce technology education early, we will have a chance of turning the tide of what I see as an anti-science agenda or philosophy that's in Jamaica. And we want to be able to demonstrate that Jamaica can make modern products. Next slide, please. Some of the key technology disciplines that are targeted on the teamworks, obviously robotics, automation, which is related, a little bit different, but related to robotics. Computer-aided design is a really, really important field, as all modern products today are designed on a computer. And if you want to work with modern products, you have to know computer-aided design. So it's a really critical technology. Software. And software is perhaps the most important technology area for Jamaica to master. I see software as a foreign language. And to me, it's the foreign language that is the most important in the world for kids to learn. Not Spanish, as useful as these things might be, like Spanish. Now they're saying Chinese. The foreign language our kids must learn are computer languages. It's in Python, for example, which is a really key language. And this is a program that we were just about to introduce just before COVID intervened at the primary level. And that is to enable the demystification of what software is, and that build the understanding that we can do that, just like Indians do, or the Chinese do, or whoever. We're no different. And the last area here is virtual and augmented reality. That's a little bit distant, but that's something that will be increasingly prevalent in the world, and we want to be able to have some kind of mastery of those disciplines. Next, please. Okay, so how are we going to upgrade 30,000 people from kindergarten through university? And the answer to that is in what I call an innovation elevator. And this slide is a little bit difficult to see, but it starts at the bottom, the ground floor of the elevator. On the ground floor would be listed programs that are for kindergarten and primary level. As I said, coding is one. The next level would be for secondary schools. It's next two levels, actually, because there's a big focus on that secondary school level. And at the top layer of programs on the TeamWorks are projects for college and university age students. But these all work together and are complementary in building that skill base that we're going to need to create a class of makers. So this is the elevator that I envision will enable that, that goal to be met. Next slide, please. Okay, what's the philosophy? Well, the philosophy here goes way back to Marcus Garvey. In this quote of his, he says, In our homes and in every other place, we must teach the higher development of science to our children and make sure that we become a race of scientists par excellence. For in spirituality and science lie the only hope to withstand the evils of the modern era. I might be a little weak on the spirituality part, but I'm really laser focused on the science in this great quote of this great man. And this is what the teamwork is about. Thanks. Next, please. So robotics is just the tip of the spear of this thrust for STEM education, which would lead to this class of makers, class of people able to compete in a global economy that's increasingly dominated by technology. And why robotics? It's really pretty simple. When I discovered robotics education for secondary schools, I went around the New York City area to see how it worked. And I went up to the Bronx first. I think it was Evander Childs, or I think, and they had a first program there. Within 2 minutes of entering that room, I was sold. And it wasn't about the machines necessarily. Yeah, that was cool. But it was really about the excitement with the kids. There's nothing I've seen in education that excites and engages kids as much as active robotics does, competitive robotics. And I knew, obviously, that Jamaican kids are super competitive. You just have to look at Champs and Manning Cup and those things. They like to compete. So I wanted something that would engage kids, and I knew competition does. So I saw kids in the Bronx getting excited about science. So robotics is not only about just teaching skills or having people become roboticists. It's about engaging them in science and getting them excited. And that's what I saw and was sold by. And as an after-school activity, it's really easy to scale. Well, relatively easy. And it's not expensive, relatively speaking. The teacher input is minimal. I love teachers, but with this project, I wanted to avoid some of the bureaucracy the ministry imposes on teachers, and perhaps other elements too. So it's an after-school activity. There is more ability to be flexible, to be creative after school, outside the school hours, and outside the strictures of the Ministry of Education. And so this is why robotics was a great starting point for this particular journey in STEM education. It checks all the boxes. The annual competition that we now have is really a fabulous achievement for Jamaica, I believe. And beyond Jamaica, it is growing in the Caribbean generally. In the first year, we had one school from Cayman, and I expect in the future there will be other schools, because I'm fielding inquiries already from other countries regarding how do they get to do this. So with the rate of growth in education, in robotics education in Jamaica, I'm expecting first that in a few years we'll have 100 or more high schools involved. And we'll also have involved other countries coming to Jamaica to compete in our national competition. And again, another beauty of FIRST is that it grows organically. It grows organically because the kids themselves drive it. They're excited by it, and the DNA of FIRST is to encourage, or rather demand, that kids push robotics. So they're required to actually go demonstrate this discipline in other schools, in the society at large, in everywhere, whether it's business, whether it's the government, civil service, whether it's other primary level schools, infant schools. They're there demonstrating what they do and can do with robots, building robots, and inspiring that younger set. And they get the main in the scheme of prize giving in the competition. That's what's prioritized, not necessarily the technical ability, although that's important. But what's at the top of the pile is the ability of kids to drive that engagement and spread the word and spread the discipline. So this is why the organizers really don't have to do a lot of promotion, in my view, because the kids are doing it. Next, please. I think that's a little bit too far ahead, is it? Okay. I'll just talk about the key skill sets enabled by robotics, and that's teamwork and collaboration around a defined objective. That objective would be the competition, and the competition simulates a startup environment. The product is your robot. The competition is your competition, the other schools. Every robot build simulates a startup. And from that, you get the product ideation and the ability to solve problems, the ability to design a solution using computers, computer-aided design to do that. You get construction, mechanical, and electronic engineering. You have obviously software coding because robots need instructions. You have to have a technical database. You have to defend your solution to the judges. So you're required to produce technical information on showing your mastery of your own robot, and that demands critical thought, critical thinking. You also need other soft skills like high-level presentation to stakeholders and sponsors. And there's a video at the end with the Prime Minister. The video hopefully may work, but this is what the kids do. So what we're looking at is a really wide range of skills, both hard and soft, that kids learn in this discipline, and while having fun. So this is the reason for its rise in Jamaica and in other parts of the world.
It's not working.
Say again?
No, it's not working.
The video does not work.
No.
Okay. So as we said, the competition, the national competition launched in 2019, and the growth to 2020, which we barely squeaked in before COVID took over, was 100%. So we grew to like 35 or so schools. And as we said, we're looking forward to this growing to 100 or more schools very soon because of that organic growth I mentioned. Okay, so we're not going to see Mr. Prime Minister.
No. We'll get the video and post it online.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So should be a final. There should be right. So we are breaking through. We're breaking through to high levels of government with the message that this is a new era and we have to change education to suit this era. And we have made a little bit of a start. So as the Prime Minister, he's understanding that. He's a fan. He is a supporter. He puts his money where his mouth is. He helps sponsor teams. So there's hope that plus maybe most importantly, he's saying that this is informing now government policy. So there's a realization that disciplines like robotics and coding and computer-aided design must be introduced in schools. It's an imperative. And whether and how that translates into action, we will see. But at least the message is getting across and the kids are the ones driving it. So that's kind of my little spiel on robotics. But just know that it's part of a larger program, and it's not just all about robotics, not even about robotics. It's about the skills that they learn that robotics does enable, robotics and other disciplines. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Now there's one question, Don. I think the next presenter is going to respond, but how do they get access to it in schools? And the next presenter will. So you don't have to respond, but just to lay it out there for Dr. Anderson.
Right, there's an organization. They can, Dr. Anderson will fill people in on that.
Thank you so much, Don. Thank you. We'll talk.
Okay, bye-bye.
Carly.
Okay, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, the second presenter under this session is Dr. Ricardo Anderson. He is a robotics enthusiast who has been evangelizing robotics as a means to improve student engagement with STEM in Jamaica schools. He has been mentoring and preparing Jamaican robotics teams since 2009 for participation in the first Tech Challenge in New York City Championship. Dr. Anderson has served as a co-tournament director for the first Tech Challenge, FTC Jamaica Robotics, the championship since its inception in 2019, where he currently serves as the planning committee chairman. Dr. Anderson graduated from Jamaica College and studied at the University of the West Indies, where he earned a bachelor's degree in computer science and a master's in management information systems. He also holds a doctorate with high commendation in computer science, also from the University of the West Indies, and is currently a lecturer in the Department of Computing at UWI Mona, with research interests in data mining and intelligence systems. He is currently engaged in research which aims to apply intelligence systems for improved student outcomes and resource management in education. Dr. Anderson, welcome.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, good evening to those who are in different parts of the world. And let me first of all thank Dr. Dice and the Education Task Force for inviting me to participate in this summit. Today, my presentation will augment what Don Jones, who, as he would have stated, came to us in 2009 while I was a faculty member at Jamaica College, and I took the ideas he put forward along with another colleague and of course the leadership there, and we started up robotics there, and I've been involved ever since, and it has mushroomed into something that I'll give a little bit of detail on throughout my presentation. So I have as my guiding topic robotics driving the STEM agenda, educating a new generation. So just a little outline here. I'll give a little background and motivation to robotics. Then I'll talk a little bit about the experience in Jamaica, and I'll go into how we can get robotics into your school. And of course, I look forward to your feedback. So most of us weren't around, but we've had really two major revolutions before we dived into that which is taking us from a point of what we considered reality to more virtual realities. We have seen, at least since the 1950s with the digital revolution, the movement of making devices that are able to process information and deal intelligently or mimic human behaviors, we've seen the growth and a pervasiveness of those in our lives like no other time before. And so it's important to recognize that robotics, artificial intelligence, and of course the Internet of Things are changing the way we live and work. So I wanted to establish a little bit of background. What is robotics though? So it's really about engineering, but engineering might be a fancy term for designing and building. Yeah? So what we talk about is an interdisciplinary branch of engineering, which hopefully at the end, we try to accomplish having a machine that is usually programmable and capable of carrying out a series of tasks or actions. And today we have both controlled and autonomous robots. So some that are able to do things on their own, make decisions in automated ways, while some which you give more instruction and they will carry out from there. Now, robots are applied in almost every facet of our lives. We have those that fly around, we have smart birds, we have smart surveillance. We have computer-based products that provide all kinds of services in home, for example, that interact with people who may want, that sort of interaction. Maybe they're lonely and they can engage in conversations. We have robots that help us in disaster zones, searching areas that are very dangerous for humans to venture in. We have robots for entertainment, those that can respond to emotions, play instruments, give a joke. Of course, the medical sciences has really been an era where robots have been used to make procedures more precise and in some cases safe. And of course, in dangerous areas of war, we have self-driving cars, we have telepresence, we have underwater. So almost everywhere we can find robots. Of course, we know of the revolutions in how we do retail and order fulfillment that have been demonstrated by some of the world leading retailers. Amazon, for example, we have car manufacturing and so on. However, we also have robots that we don't see, right? Those that are autonomous agents that act on network and within software systems. And we give, for example, sometimes when we call our favorite utility company or call centers are really automated interactive voice response systems that are having conversations with you, and we call those bots, right? We have also social bots that exist in social media, and sometimes we also must be mindful that the comments that you might see on social media on your favorite platform may not be generated by a human. It might be a computer program that is acting intelligently. And of course, many of us, depending on the phones we have, we might have some personal assistants in Alexa, Siri, and Cortana, right? So I say this to say that modern life integrates seamlessly with robots. And some may posit that it depends on robots. So of course, we must prepare students as educators to thrive in this new reality. And so Professor Reimers of the Harvard Graduate School of Education says, individual success increasingly depends upon students' interpersonal dexterity, creativity, and ability to innovate. And he noted some key competencies for thriving in the 21st century. We have collaboration, teamwork and cooperation, critical thinking, reasoning logically, and so on. And so what we do is to use robotics to develop and enhance these competencies. And we do this through partnership with the FIRST organization, as Don would have noted. And FIRST really is about motivating young people to pursue education and career opportunities in STEM. The mission is really to ensure that students gain the necessary technology skills, inspire innovation, self-confidence, communication, and leadership. And so as Don mentioned, it's not just about the construction of a robot. The program is much broader, all right? So the program really engages children from kindergarten through high school in mentor-based research and robotics programs to help them become science and technology leaders. And so what the organization offers really are 4 main programs. We have those for ages 6 to 10, 9 to 16, and then we have 12 to 18, right? The global impact of the organization, as Don has noted, they are the leader in robotics education. They have impacted 500,000 students in 2019. We've had 300,000 mentors across the world, and this is worldwide. 51,000 robots created. And of course, FIRST is volunteer driven. We have had 20 million volunteer hours. And of course, the students are able to access over $80 million in scholarships available through the FIRST ecosystem. So how does the program work, really? So each year, the organization releases a challenge, usually by video. So last year, the theme was Skystone. And so if you think about building a high-rise structure, right? The thought is, as we move to build structures more rapidly and bigger structures, we will need machines that's gonna help us to do that more efficiently. And so students were guided to create a robot around that objective of building a high-rise structure. Now, local tournaments are run across the world, and we run one in Jamaica. And the winners advance to a world championship. So each team can consist of up to 10 persons, and they work together to build one robot. We usually require a mentor and or a coach. A mentor is usually a teacher. A coach can be a senior student or a teacher. They design and build the robot to address a challenge, and they earn points during a game that is held at a championship event. It was also mentioned by Don, they have to provide a comprehensive log of their activities. So, for example, they have to have details of when they meet, what activities they participated in, what were their design choices, why they made these choices, who were the persons involved in these choices. They have to take pictures to show their sketches and so on and so forth. They also have to engage in outreach activities to spread robotics/STEM. They have to do fundraising, deal with sponsors so they learn these skills, and they have to demonstrate team building and collaboration, which of course are emphasized through the various awards that are available both at local championships and in international, at the world championship. So we have awards aligned to the different key areas that we emphasize in the program. We have awards for innovative thinking, sorry, team spirit and team building. We have awards for robot design and innovativeness. And of course, winning, sorry, winning really is not about the team that accumulates the most points in the game. The overall winner of a competition, which moves on to the next stage, and in the case of Jamaica, they will move on to the World Championship, is not necessarily the team that had the robot that accumulated the most points while they were playing the game. All the other areas, innovation, team spirit, their outreach activities, how their journey is reflected in their engineering notebook, right? How detailed it is, right? And we see the growth. So all of those things come together, and there's an overall winner of what we call the Inspire Award, and that's usually the team that moves forward. However, in different locales, they might have a number of spots at the World Championship, and they might include teams that have done well in the other sub areas as advancing teams to the World Championship. So I won't go over much of this because Don gave you a background of this already in terms of first in Jamaica. We are affiliate partners of the international organization, and so we're able to use their logos, we access the materials, and we run a program that is integrated so that the teams that win can move on to the international championship. So, of course, having been working with teams both at JC and throughout the island for the past 10 years, 11 years now, I've seen much excitement, interest, inspiration. I remember there was an occasion where I was in the lab with some students, and the students brought to their discussion of a design some things that they just learned in their physics class. And they started on the whiteboard and they started to do the calculations. And I sat in awe and I said, look at how they have just now realized something that may have been theoretical, right? They now see the value of mathematics, angles, right? Physics, force, right? And so on. There's creativity, problem solving skills. And I'll tell you why this happens. The way the mentors are expected to facilitate robotics in this program is that the students must be allowed to search for solutions, find those solutions. It is not the teacher who is going to be teaching them how to do it. The teacher will help to guide them to where to find the information that they need in order to solve their problems. So there is strong alignment of what has been observed in Jamaica with those skills that are key to the thriving 21st century citizen. So we have an organization in Jamaica, of course, that manages the program locally, and we have an annual championship, and we've had that in 2019 and 2020. And unfortunately, our winners this year weren't able to travel because the World Championship was restricted by the impacts of COVID-19. And so I have a few pictures here, here's an example of students participating in the game during our 2020 championship. It's a small field and they have built their robots and they use their game controllers to control the robot, and it's very exciting. Here we also have one of the teams participating. So we have a wide cross-section of teams from Jamaica. This is Dunoon Technical High School and their mentors and coach. We also have schools from outside of Kingston, the metropolitan region, because robotics is spread right across the island, and wherever you are, wherever your school is, yes, we will facilitate you. We have inclusion of females. We have all female teams. For example, we have mixed teams. This is Alpha, and then we now have here Calabar, who was a team that won the overall championship this year. They got the Inspire Award. And we just have some snapshots here. Here we have a picture. The lower picture is a picture of our volleyball. Right, as well as you would see in your upper right hand corner, upper left corner. So I won't go through the game, but I'll move quickly to how to get started. So we strongly suggest that you set up a club, because although it is dubbed robotics, and many students may think that it's all about building, you need some other skills. You need people that will be facilitating the fundraising activities. You have people who will be engaging outreach. We need, of course, the engineering or the build team. And of course, we need people who are going to do coding. Now, the program has several partnerships with leading providers of equipment or tools, and also software that allows for students at the high school level to be able to learn quickly and get their robots built and coded. So that's not an issue. The students have to be guided into taking copious notes about their journey, what they have done to accomplish what they accomplished, right? You also need people to ensure that that record is kept so that the compilation of the final product is well done. And of course, you're going to need to manage your parts and your tools. Now, of course, we're going to need mentors, and usually that's a faculty member. Usually we recommend 2 or 3 persons, and it doesn't require that the teacher / mentor has any technical expertise. You don't have to know anything about robotics. As I often tell interested persons, that your real job is to make sure that the students are not burning down the place. They're not misusing the tools and horseplaying in the areas where they should be doing their build or their coding / learning. All right. Mentors are registered in the international organization and acknowledged by FIRST. You are expected to guide students to discover, innovate, to engage in collaborative activities, and to take responsibility for the team's safety and so on. And then, of course, to sign off on external interactions. So if you really want to get started at your school, your first step is really to register with First Tech Challenge Jamaica. At this point, we offer the program for high schools, but we are working to roll out the program for primary school aged students in the season, which begins in September of this year. So whether you're in a high school or a primary school, you can reach out to us and we will provide you assistance to set up a club. We have adaptations of the international documentation for Jamaica. So we have rewritten some of the details to make it more relevant to how we operate in Jamaica. So we'll guide you on how to set up a club, how to sell the idea to your school leaders, right? We provide a toolkit, which is local. Our team here has a number of videos. We hold seminars and workshops with groups of schools. We have some digital material which we share, right? So if you are if you don't understand, if you don't know, but you have the interest, that's enough. Usually, the students getting excited is the easiest part. Students are usually very excited. I've seen where robotics has had such an impact on students that they start doing their schoolwork all of a sudden. I remember a teacher last year saying to me, she said, "Sir, you don't know what robotics has done to this boy. You don't even understand," with almost tears in her eyes, how he has just become so committed, right? How there's this light in his eyes, right? His schoolwork improved because also the program include activities that award students who are doing well in their regular academic activities based on their report. And we actually send a few students to the World Championship just as a token if when they go through that process, they are seen as outstanding. We call it the Dean's List Award. Of course, in order to get your school working or to have everything in place, you're going to need a work area. You're going to need a place to practice with your robot. And I mean, when we just began at JC, we asked the local carpenter to just build a little 10 by 10 area, and we got some special mats down at the hardware and put down on a field, and that's what we used. And when the team won the New York Championship in 2013 and went to the World Championship, that's what we were using. We didn't buy all the parts to build a field for ourselves. Now, in Jamaica, happily, NCB Foundation last year sponsored startup kits for all the schools that participated in the competition. And I have to big them up because they have been committed to this program. And so we were able to provide grants to the schools who wanted to participate last year, and every school that requested a grant of a kit, we sourced, we bring it in. We also provide for those schools who want to participate in the program and may not be approved for a grant, because for the upcoming year, we are unsure whether or not we'll be able to provide grant for every school. We will do the logistic work for you of buying the kit of parts, which is usually for new teams, and we will provide you guidance. What we do, we hold seminars, as I said, workshops, some of them online, and maybe more of them this year online than before, and we get you up to speed. So the local partners here, we're here to get you started wherever you are in Jamaica. Once you have an interest, we can get your school on board. So I have the contact information here, which of course will be made available in the presentation when it is posted. And you can check out the web resources that are available. We have a local website, jamaicarobotics.org. You can go there to find information about the program. And of course, you can send us an email at info@jamaicarobotics. That shouldn't be .com, it should be .org. My apologies. All right. Thank you very much. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson and Mr. Don Jones. Thank you so much. It was very enlightening and different, very innovative. This is what we really need to move on in Jamaica. And as you said, students will learn. They have more interest in their educational growth, completing homework and so on once they get involved. So this is very good. I hope that we take up the initiative to become a partner of the program. We do have some time, about 10 minutes or so, for questions. We built this into the schedule so that if you have your questions, you can ask them at this time. So I'm asking you, participants, if you want to raise your hand using the Zoom raise hand feature, or if you want to post your questions in the chat, that would be very good. We haven't seen any questions as such, and the ones we have seen already, you have answered, which is how do we become a part of it in terms of schools. So you have answered those already. It's a very good presentation when you have all your answers, your questions answered already. It's difficult to find other ones. But I want to follow up by saying that all of this, as Dr. Anderson said, will be posted on the website, and the presentations and the contact information will be there. There is one question, Dr. Anderson, and I'm going to unmute Mr. Jones too, if you want to chip in here. Does the school size matter to become a part of it?
No. So what we found, you're hearing me, right?
Yeah, clear, yes.
What we found, although we say a team can have 10 members, your club can be any size. I remember after we did well in 2012 season, and we came back with a few sectional awards to JC. By September, there were 1,000 boys who turned up for robotics, right?
Wow.
Actually, it is very expensive to take a team for 2 weeks to participate in a championship, how we used to do it, which is one of the reasons why we pushed to try and get the program here so it's more accessible. And then many other teams many other schools wanted to participate, and it could just not be facilitated in New York. But what we found is that schools are having more than one teams. So this year, for example, a number of schools had 2 teams, right? It's just that to register a team, it's 10 persons. A school can have 10 teams, right? Each team will need a kit. Usually the kit comes in at about $1,000 US, right? If you were to purchase it on your own, all the things you need. And when you get a kit of parts, it is carefully selected to ensure that you have all that you need to participate in the challenge for the year. But also, you are able to use other materials, be innovative. There was at a point when we reached out to the local universities here, and they were able to use their engineering faculty to assist us to fabricate small parts. We go to the machine shop, for example, and so on. But the team is just 10 persons, and you can have as many teams as possible. We don't limit the number of teams.
Okay. All right. Don, that's clear enough for you?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. There's a question here. The platform, does FIRST Robotics use, which platform do you use in FIRST Robotics? And is it VEX IQ or Arduino?
Arduino.
Yeah.
Neither.
Oh,
neither.
sorry.
There have been some platform changes, and there are some discussions about some of the details, which I mean might be a little bit too technical here, but sufficing to say, all the devices, all the software, the CAD software to do your robot design, the programming language, tools, all the materials you need are provided in what we call the kit. And the information that the support that we provide our goal is that every team that is started here should be able to have a working robot by the competition. And so our team of volunteers, the planning committee, and all the persons who participate, we will come to you, we will assist you, we will, host a Zoom meeting to get you started. FIRST recommends that a team will need at least 10 weeks to build a viable robot. I remember I had a workshop in Montego Bay with a team that came on relatively late, and 2 weeks before the competition, they just pulled apart the robot. It was just not working out, and they won on the field 2 weeks later.
Wow, that's good. All right,
right? Because of the teamwork, the gel of the team, they worked on it, and then other teams that participated hosted them, showed them a few things, taught them a little bit of programming, helped them to debug. It's a community, and we have our major tenet is what we call gracious professionalism, which is now, those are not my words, right? That's Woody's words, but we want to win, but it's okay if somebody else wins. So the spirit is teams help other teams. Even on competition day, somebody's robot stop working, another team comes and helps them, right?
Yeah.
If you come to the competition, I think when NCB came the first year and they saw what happened, they signed on immediately for year 2 to say, this is what we want to be a part of. The excitement, it's just a great thing. And, we all as volunteers give our time easily to this cause. Because all mentors, all persons are volunteers. Everyone is a volunteer, right?
Interesting. A question real quick. I want to get in a few more.
Right.
If people from New York, teachers from New York, can they mentor teams?
We don't have restrictions, yes, so they can mentor a team. So if you find that you want to mentor a team in Jamaica, participation is not restricted to being in a school. So you can, your community organization can mentor a team if you want. If you want to mentor a team out of your garage, that's fine. We don't have a problem.
All right, so then the question is, do you need STEM qualification as a teacher to run the club?
No.
Okay.
The teacher doesn't need to know anything about robotics. Right? The mentor need not know anything about robotics or even science. I'll say this to you. The mentor who when I moved to the university, I left JC, the mentor who took over, I believe, was a librarian.
Mm.
And the team still did well and continues to do well.
Okay.
Right? The mentor is just there as an adult in the presence to make sure that them don't, you know, cut down the building. And because, you know, sometimes they get excited and you don't want any incidents because they're using, you know, they might be using a small drill or a hacksaw and so on. So you don't want certain things to happen. So it's just a adult presence. And these students, they find information, they learn quickly, they try things, right? You're just there also to make sure that they follow the carpenter's rule, you know.
Yeah.
They plan first, the design, and then they cut once because the parts are limited.
So Ricardo, is there any opportunity for sponsorship? Because then we know low income family and so on, and school community. Is there any opportunity?
We are a sponsor-based organization. Everything is sponsored. So the best we tend to negotiate so far is for registered teams to be able to access a grant for their kits to be free to them. And over the past 2 years, we've been able, the first year we were able to do so through the Ministry of Education. And of course, we access the waivers and so on and bring in the items, which is why we do that part. So if you're a school and you're gonna buy a kit, you can still do it through us so that you don't have to pay all the duties. But as best as possible, we look for sponsorship to get a kit in the hands of new teams. Now, the times we're in, very dynamic. So we can't say whether or not it will be possible, but for the 2 years we've had the competition, all new teams received their kit free of charge. Right?
Okay. All right. I have one more. Sorry to cut in there. We need to roll.
No problem.
There is somebody, Miss Thomas, I'm going to unmute you to ask your question. Press unmute, please. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Good afternoon. I am a primary school teacher, so coding would be what I would be interested in. And not much was said about getting the primary school teachers involved. It's more for the high school, and there are a lot of primary school teachers online right now.
Right. So for the first 2 years, we focused on the high school. We're actually in discussions with the organization and some partners to start September 2020 with the primary school program. It's still very organized. Everything comes in a kit and so on and so forth. And the materials are there. But we wanted to get the high school competition underway. And so as part of our expansion plan, September, we will be launching the primary school. So if you get in contact with us,
I'm already in contact with you guys. I
Right.
think I was the first primary school to contact you.
Awesome.
But, yes. But
so if you're not getting our team blasts, then you should just shoot us an email so that we can get you back on that list to make sure that at the point when we're launching the program for primary schools, then you will be able to get that information. But the same model that we have for the high school program, we're looking for, we're looking to do that for the primary schools also. And it's for the academic year that is coming up, this one. So all the persons who are interested from primary schools, you are not left out. It's just that we're just about to start to have the first national championship that includes the students at the primary school level.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson and Mr. Don Jones. Thank you very much for this lovely presentation. And you have quite a few wonderful comments online. People want to join. And as I said, you answered the questions already by going through this very comprehensive presentation. Very good. And we will be in touch.
Yes,
Take
thank
care.
you very much for this opportunity.
Yes.
We're really elated, and the work your network is doing is great. The task force, and you know, we can continue to collaborate as we move education forward.
Yes.
In Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
Dwayne, big respect. Big respect.
Yes, they're done. Yes. Enough love.